full firing and military action in land, air, and on the sea over the from 1700 hours actually. In fact, the ceasefire came into effect at 5 p.m. today. The announcements of the ceasefire came in at around 5:30 p.m. Post 5:30 p.m. India time. First, it was U.S. President Donald Trump who announced it on the social media platform Truth Social, and then eventually it was announced by India as well. We have Ambassador Suresh K. Goel, former Indian diplomat, now joining us on this broadcast. We have Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena, former DG Air Defence, Indian Army. With us, we have Dr. P.K. Mishra, former ADG of the BSF, and Dr. Abhinav Pandya, counter-terrorism expert and CEO of the Usanas Foundation. With us, let me now begin by asking Ambassador Suresh Goel. Ambassador Suresh Goel, this is a diplomatic success for sure. It has been a long parleys and discussions resulting in the ceasefire. At a very crucial juncture, things could have escalated very quickly at that stage when the ceasefire was announced.
Well, certainly very, very sudden, very abrupt, without any information or without any indication of what is cooking up in the background. Success or not success, since we do not know the details at the moment, with the exception of what the Forest Secretary said, that we will be stopping the firing with effect from 5 p.m. without giving any more details. Therefore, difficult to say whether it was a diplomatic success or it was a success like what Trump had done in the case of Ukraine or in the case of Gaza. Therefore, I think we need to wait for details before we can say anything. But certainly, one thing that I can say with some thing that I do hope that Pakistan and the USA realized that when India say that they will punish the terrorism activities, we mean what we say. And therefore, when we say that in future, all activities relating to terrorism will be considered as an act of war, I hope it is taken seriously, because I think India has suffered a lot, considerably over the last more than 3 decades, because of activities relating to international terrorism. And even till today, I'm not very sure, there is no certainty whether Pakistan realizes the folly of its mistakes and what it has been doing across the border. So we need to wait and see. That's all I can say.
We need to wait and watch, isn't it, Kartikeya?
Absolutely. But I think it's a golden moment for the Indian Armed Forces. Let me go across to Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena, former DG Air Defence, Indian Army. Sir, the events of the last 3 days, the stellar role played by our air defence system, where did we succeed? Where did we pin down, the parked armed forces? And how did we shatter this narrative which Pakistan had always spun in last 20 to 30 or 40 years, that they have a better air force than ours? General Saxena.
I will say that some very, very important lessons and revelations have come out in these 3 days of conflict. First of all, it has established beyond any doubt that drone power, small drone power, both in reconnaissance and attack, are the new tools of war, which, along with many others like misinformation, cyber security, cyber defense, etc., will dominate the scene. Now, this is not enough to just say drone, anti-drone. You look at the developments which is happening in last 3 days. What is one weapon which Pakistan has been brandizing and using in preponderance over the last 3 days? Everybody will agree that these are Pakistani drones. Now that brings me to the question, is Pakistan such a big drone power that it can do such a lot of damage? And do we need to see beyond drones, beyond these little monsters? Yes, sir, we have to see. I will bring out few questions. First of all, Pakistan drone power has been built over a large number of long years and decades. It was in 1990s when they started to make their in-house star machine. What is a star? It is intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, and reconnaissance. Basically, reconnaissance machine. They imported from left, right, and center. China, ASN machine, Britain, Sniper, Germany, Luna, Italy, Falco, South Africa, Seeker. Now that is all gone. Now they are playing a big game with other players. They have not only made the Burak drone, which has got an endurance of 12 hours and a range of 1,000 kilometers. They are also taking no chances in building drone power through China, CH-4A and B, and Winglong 2. And who has come in their biggest support this time is the Turkish drones. Turkish drones are Anka drones, they are Bayraktar drones, and everybody is talking about the SS Guard Songa drones. Now, all these names may sound a little unfamiliar and so on. But look at the big game. The big game is what? The big game is there are small monsters and there are real big machines. The small monsters are like SS Guard, like a kamikaze drone like Piker Y1HA. They were sent in large numbers. What is this game of sending in large numbers? The game of sending this large numbers is to ensure many things, to exhaust our air defenses by inviting radars to open up, missiles to fire, and then get to know our deployments, our gaps, our vulnerabilities, only to be exploited by bigger machines. Which are the bigger machines? Like TB, Bayraktar TB2, like Akinci drone, like Anka drone, like CH-4 drone. These drones are not only GPS-guided, GPS-controlled, they also carry laser-guided bombs, laser-guided rockets, they can carry precision munitions, and therefore, what is the big lesson for us? The big lesson for us is that we have to be prepared for this dual game, and do not show your cards initially when these little monsters make a beginning. And I salute my Indian Armed Forces that they did not fall prey to. There was misinformation in Indian media. Somebody is talking about S-400 being launched at some drone. It can be, nothing can be more foolish than this. And we never did that. What are we doing it with the drones? We are trying to kill them through soft kill by either RF jamming or by killing them through lasers or by killing them through non-kinetic and kinetic means. We are not opening up our critical radars, our missiles, our critical surface to air systems, short range, medium range. That is a lesson to be learned. And this big game of drone and counter drone has shown its hand, and it has shown how a weak and a fragile country like Pakistan, which is at a brink of economic failure, can muster up 543 drones in one night. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. It is a lesson to be learned that drone power is here to play, and we have to be careful to play the game better than the adversary, and we have played it better. And another thing, Army air defense or air defense. I have served 40 years in the Army. Earlier, air defense used to be a passive reactive force defending some vulnerabilities. Today, air and air defense are working in air denial mode. Air denial. Look at Russia-Ukraine conflict. Air defense is alive. The skies will remain contested. Today, your air defenses were strong. 543 drones came and went away. You did not give away your cards. That is the reason to build your air defenses, to build your guns, to build your soft and hard kill measures. That is the lesson I want to bring up. Thank you.
Very detailed. I mean to say very detailed answer on this.
Thank you so much for that, sir. It helps us understand the big picture very well. Thank you for being with us on the broadcast. Let me also bring in Dr. P.K. Mishra into the conversation. Dr. P.K. Mishra, what came from the US especially US Secretary of State Marco Rubio's statement on social media was that India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire. They've agreed to sit in a neutral place and continue discussions on a broad range of issues. That's what we understand. That's the kind of statement that came from Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. But if you look at all the communication from India's side so far, be it that first short and curt statement from India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri to the briefing by India's armed forces, they're telling us two different stories, isn't it?
Yes, we have heard what Mark Rubin has stated, and his statement that both countries, they will sit at a neutral place and sort out and discuss about this ceasefire. And we could come to know this briefing which was done by Ministry of Defense and our Foreign Secretary. Things are very clear. You see, of course, what India has done, we have acted on Pahalgam issue on absolutely on the targets of militants. The misinformation which has gone from Pakistan that we did hit their mosques and other religious places, that was absolutely wrong. The second point, they told they have hit the location of our S-400 and BrahMos, and that was also wrong. It was proved to be wrong. The third thing with the misinformation they came, then most of these airfields, our Indian Air Force fields, Pathankot, Batinda, and there were 4 or 5 fields that they have destroyed these fields. That was also a misinformation. But we have proved the Pakistan's unprovoked firing. It came on mosques. We have shown it at Nowshera and Rajouri. And it came on Gurdwaras also. And the proof we have given. And that is how, in this briefing, it was very clearly told, Pakistan had to suffer very badly, both in air and land. Just see what has happened at...
No, Dr. Mishra, I take your point. Dr. Mishra, I take your point. We inflicted heavy casualty in terms of infrastructure on Pakistan. Let me just join Dr. Abhinav Pandya. So there is one aspect I want you to speak on. That is, government sources are saying that there is a ceasefire and nothing else has been agreed upon.
Yeah, I lost your voice. I lost your voice.
The government sources are saying that only thing we have agreed is for a ceasefire and nothing else. If you look at the Secretary of State, United States of America, the tweet, it says, talk at a neutral place.
Yeah.
So there's a difference of language, tone and tenor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Is it for me, the question?
Yeah, the question is for you.
Can you repeat? I lost your voice. There was some connection issue.
I'm saying that there's a difference of tone and tenor of what was tweeted by Marco Rubio and what the government sources are saying, that only ceasefire has been agreed upon, nothing else.
Well, I think that definitely there is some sort of dissonance between the different versions of ceasefire which are coming, and the way this was announced, it shows that this was pretty abrupt, and till yesterday it seemed that this is going to escalate, and things were looking very grim because Pakistan was attacking the civilian areas, and today we just came to know about the ceasefire. So it's very difficult to say what are the modalities and what are the conditionalities on which they have agreed. So I think it's difficult to say anything precise about this at this stage. But and another question is that how long this ceasefire survives, that's also a big question, because India has made a clear statement that any terror attack in the future will be declared as an act of war. But now, since Pakistan, they attacked civilian areas, and they kind of in the narrative war, they also showed that that they were giving a befitting reply. Now, what stops them from perpetrating more terror attacks in the future? That's a big question. And I'm told that over the last few days, when this shelling was happening, they've already infiltrated a large number of terrorists and fidains in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, I mean, just after a few days, or let's say after a month, if they continue with their terror attacks, what's going to stop them? So regarding this ceasefire, I mean, I think that this, to me, it looks very weak and very uncertain. Something similar on the lines of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And it seems that, I mean, we really need to evaluate what we got out of this engagement over the last 4 or 5 days. I mean, in terms of what strategic gains or tactical gains we made, or I mean, if we did not make any gains. So we really need to evaluate that, and also we need to think about the future trajectory of how this is going to unfold. I feel that we have ended up with more embittered and emboldened Pakistan. And if they continue with their terror attacks, what is the future strategy that we have? Now, I think we need to think in terms of something very lasting and a very effective solution for Pakistan. Ad hoc based solutions.
Logic, but I can reverse this logic. Dr. Pandya. Ambassador, the whole thing can reflect very poorly on Qasim Munir also. I mean to say, his days can be numbered. I think he has come out looking poorer.
Can I make a comment on this? Can I see in Pakistan? Okay, fine.
I'll come to you, Dr. Pandya. The question was to the ambassador. Can you please unmute yourself, sir?
In a sense, it does reflect very poorly on Qasim Munir, because Qasim Munir had a particular target in mind when he began the entire operation. And if he has been compelled to stop the operation before he could be where he wanted to be, he does. But you see, Karthikeyan, the problem is that we do not know what objectives did Qasim Munir had in mind. We do not know exactly where he's going to be. If the whole thing ends in the middle like this, and as somebody was saying, will this continue as an act of war by Pakistan? Are they going to inflict more injuries on India? We need to wait and see. At the moment, it just appears, and I'm sorry that I'm using a very informal kind of language, that just like President Trump is, that he has had the satisfaction of saying that, yes, look, I negotiated another ceasefire between two warring countries. That's about it, really. Therefore, we should wait and see. Maybe there is something good. For example, IWT, not IWT, I'm sorry, but IMF giving the loan of $1 billion, the tranche to Pakistan. Were there any conditionalities attached to it? Was there some understanding reached with Pakistan before IMF cleared it? Please remember that USA actually has a major say in the decisions of the IMF. So we do not know everything at the moment. That's all I can say.
Fact of the matter is, before this, before the news broke, and both of us were in a studio, Krishna and me, there was a small release by the government of India. Any further act of terror would be treated as an act of war. And then came the announcement. I mean, so that's also significant, sir.
Absolutely. I mentioned that already. So let us wait for the full picture to emerge before we really know what actually happened behind the scenes. But all I know is that, yes, a lot must have happened behind the scenes to have this development suddenly.
You know what people want to know? What General Saxena, what people really want to know? We have the visuals. What did we hit? Where did we hit Pakistan? Those visuals are there. We have seen it. What was the message to them? What shook them? That is where the public interest is.
Yeah, all that led up to that call from the Pakistani DGMO to the Indian DGMO at 3:35 p.m.
Absolutely, you're right, Krishna. And what were we hitting there? Can you tell us, sir? What were we hitting there? Did it really shake them very badly, sir?
Yes. This is a very, you have hit the nail on the head. But before I attempt that answer to your question, let me just quote Dr. Aminav. I think he made a fantastic point. You see, 22nd April, when the terror attack happened, what India said? On 7th May, We replied terror versus terror. We struck terror, 9 terror camps. That's it. And we said we are measured, we are focused, we are non-escalatory. And if you escalate to anything more, we will reply. So then they escalated to military facilities of Avantipur, Pathankot, Ambala, and so on. We took the ladder. See what has happened. People say if there is a tree which is giving poisonous fruit or venomous fruit, you pluck the fruit and throw away. Do not touch the tree. Then what will happen? After some time, again, venomous tree, the fruit, poisonous fruit will again come. That is what Dr. Abhinav was telling. And this big difference today is, we have said that today we followed the line of terror, telling them focus, non-escalatory. Tomorrow that will not happen. Tomorrow it is very clear. Terror attack, act of war. Act of war replied as a warring country will reply to an aggressor. That's a very big difference. That's a very big difference, number one. Number two is that we have always maintained a fact, and we always know by experience, that when victory comes or when the claim of credit comes, there are many players who come and take. We did it. Donald Trump, for what the ambassador has just brought out, is looking at some other political mileage and so on. But the fact still remains that it is the Pakistani DGMO which has rung us up, and we have only agreed for the cessation of firing. Everybody is saying ceasefire and all, fine. Cessation of firing, now relegated to the revival of the same at 12 p.m. on 12th May. Now you have to understand why the DGMO got compelled. See, follow the actions. Initially what happened? Act of terror. When we attacked their gut of 7 terrorist camps, Pakistan knew we can come as much as 138 kilometers, that is the farthest we went, with precision strikes and take the gut of the terrorist strike out. First indication in their mind. What is the second indication in their mind? All right, let us now attack with large number of drones and missiles and show them that we can sort more than 16, 17 military targets, and then we will cobble down under pressure. Nothing like this happened. Neither our counter air operation, neither our air assets got damaged, nor our air defense got silenced. In the meantime, Pakistan realized, oh my God, one strike by one of the weapons, which I will not say it in open source, actually destroyed a very critical surface-to-air missile complex of HQ-9B. Gentlemen, HQ-9B has 48 missiles. It has got 48 launchers, 192 missiles. It has got a radar called HT-233D. We just took out precisely the radar. Once the radar is gone, we blinded the system. So what is the next message which went? Oh my God, our air defenses are not secure, and these guys know how to hit them precisely. They escalated to say that now let us do some strikes by JF-17, did some fake propaganda. JF-17 went and struck this, our F-16 gone, our S-400 gone, misinformation. But their air forces started saying, sir, Chaklala is gone, Rafiq is gone, Murid is gone, Rahim Yar Khan is gone. So much damage is already taking place on our assets. And what is Pakistan's biggest strength? Is the strength to strike us across the border by two things. What are the things? One is air, and what is the other? The other is their missile power, the rocket power. They have Fatah missiles, which are for 180 kilometers and 400 kilometers. They have Hataf series of missiles. Hataf 1, Nazir, Abdali, Ghaznavi, Shaheen, starting from 70 kilometers to 2350 kilometers. Then they tried to do the misinformation with nuclear card. When they say this card is not working, because India is not stopping, continuously destroying our air assets and air bases, and our card is not working, then the DGMO, not the DGMO, the country realized that our economy is down. 1 billion is to feed the hungry mouths and to feed the army coffers. We cannot sustain. There is a statement by their air marshal that you are pitched against an 18 million army of 6 million. You are pitched against a 31 squadron with 18 squadron. You are pitched against Agni Prithvi missiles with your aging Ghaznavi and Shaheen. He said so on media. The candle started to light. Oh my God, stop it. Because this is not the India of earlier times which will cobble down and non-ahimsa and non-this and the unfinished agenda and so on. I don't want to speak on the open forum these things. They said, enough is enough. It is not the Indian DGMO who rang up. Who rang up? Pakistani DGMO.
Part of
I
this,
have
isn't it?
I have served in DGMO, sir. I have been a director in some section I will not name, and I know that there is a direct war connectivity, which used to call it hotline, to DGMO's talk. I have been a witness to it. If some DGMO, how do we connect the DGMOs? In normal MO directed, the staff, both sides say, yes sir, I am on. Yes sir, I am on. All right sir, I am putting on the DGMO. I am putting the DGMO. Tuck, the DGMOs come out. It is regular and together. Today, Pakistani DGMO rang up the Indian DGMO, sends a message, and the message which I tried to explain is when the destruction goes beyond the threshold which you can sustain, when your perception of the nuclear bogey is not making any headway, then you start seeing the reality and you act accordingly. Thank you.
Wow. Lieutenant VK Saxena, I couldn't have put it better, helping us understand. That call is, even Dr. PK Mishra is in complete agreement with me. We're smiling at how well you managed to encapsulate it with your words as to what exactly happened. It was, not until the Ministry of Defense or Indian Armed Forces' media briefing that we heard that sentence, that at 15:35 hours, Pakistan's DGMO called India's DGMO. None of this became clear until that point. So, and now we understand that little sentence has so much meaning, isn't it, Dr. PK Mishra, that it was the Pakistani DGMO who called Indian DGMO for that, and that's not the usual standard operating practice, so to speak.
Yes, in fact, he was forced to speak. The environment in Pakistan and the environment in Pakistan Air Force and Army both, including Pakistan's Navy, they forced DGMO to speak. The way they lost at Kardu, they lost at Sargodha, they lost everywhere, and I'm telling you, they lost in LOC also. I don't want to speak where all in LOC they lost very badly, and they knew with this economic condition, even though they got now the help from IMF, that is not enough. That's not enough to keep up this action and on India. Is very, very difficult, because without their air force, after losing HQ9 base, air radar base, they could not continue. They just could not continue, and that is how their DGMO came up. And just see what will happen to General Munir. What will be his condition? Whether he will be removed.
The speculation has already begun on that front. The speculation has already begun on what's going to happen to Asim Munir, the Pakistan's army chief.
Yes, and I'm telling you one more point I'll add.
Okay.
We have seen ceasefire violation for last so many years. Never to believe Pakistan, Israel, Hamas, what they discussed, that also could not last long. I am very sure, like ceasefire violation, which was violated hundreds times by Pakistan, I have a doubt whether even this one will last long. We have to be very, very careful, because he is on Chanakya Niti. He is Khad. And you have to be very, very careful, because during this firing, when they were firing on us, a lot of penetration attempts of jihadi militants were there in Rajouri, Nowshera and Samba sector, they will still continue it. They will never abandon. That will continue. We have to be very careful and be ready again to face them. The way we finish them, we have to finish it again. If the terror act will continue, of course it will be a war. It will be a war, and we have to face it, and we have to face it very badly, and teach Pakistan a lesson again. That's what I can tell.
And at the end of that statement from the India's Armed Forces, the Ministry of Defence's briefing, it was very clear, it was reiterated some 2 times, 3 times over, like that we are ready to launch any operation from here on if there is a misadventure. So, Karthikeya, at this stage, all I can think of is that the next 24 hours will be very crucial. For the ceasefire to hold to start with?
See, the ceasefire will hold. The larger issue is, for example, in the next 7 days, if there is a terrorist attack, then what will happen? There are natures, the types of terror attacks. For example, Pahalgam was complete. I mean to say, Pahalgam evokes very strong emotion. But there were a number of terror attacks that had taken place. The policemen got hit. Then there was a local pilgrim party that got hit.
Last 1 year or so,
then,
so to speak.
For example, suppose a terrorist nab army men, yes sir, Riyasi, who are on leave, and then they are killed. Then how? When you say we have equated
Act of
terror with act of war, then what will be? I know Dr. Abhinav spoke about that. What will be India's response? I think that is something the government will need to redefine, because you cannot say that no terror activity will take place. Pakistan may use it again. Will make it smaller. So what will be your response? That is something which Dr. Abhinav Pandya, you should speak upon. What will be then our response? Because I am not sure if Pakistan will secede all acts of terror. I don't think that's possible. You don't change the nature of the beast.
Please unmute yourself, sir. Dr. Abhinav Pandya.
Can you please unmute yourself?
Can't hear the doctor. I can't hear Dr. Pandya.
Yes. Well, we must understand that Pakistani army has this very extreme jihadist mindset, and they have a pathological hatred towards India and a Hindu India.
Yes.
Right now, they see as a very crucial opportunity to ramp up communal issues in India and also terror activities in India. So I am 100% sure that they are going to ramp up these activities in Kashmir as well as in the other parts of India. And another factor that really helps them or encourages them is the growth of Islamist radicalization in India over the last, let's say, a few years. All these various transnational terror groups have become very active in India, and global Islamist forces are here. Also, Hamas is also aligned with them now, and they may use some of the Hamas tactics, in the Indian hinterland also. And so now coming to the other point, what will be India's response? Before I delve deeper into what would be India's response, we also need to understand that there's a very long-term and a deep-rooted, this international game in which Turkey is with Pakistan, China is with Pakistan. So I think we have to look at both the angles, the internal security angle and the global geopolitical angles. And we should think of something very long-term and a robust solution to Pakistan problem. I will not be surprised, because that if in the future any escalation takes place, India will have to move its ground forces in POK, supported by a very robust air defense, and go for a concrete action. And I think, in my opinion, balkanization of Pakistan is the only solution that you need to exercise in Pakistan's case, and I think we should really start thinking about it. There is a tendency here that if you talk about it, people tend to call you hawkish, and people tend to call you some kind of a dreamy thinker. I don't think that's the case. Well, if India really wants to make a strong strategic footprint at a global level, you need to come out with a final solution for an errant enemy which doesn't understand the language of rationality. And after, beyond the point, you're not left with any other option. Let's say, in future, if they again, conduct
such a devil's advocate. Dr. Abhinav, let me be the devil's advocate in this conversation. Let me be the devil's advocate. If you're saying the balkanization, then we are saddled with the case of Bangladesh. Look at how it has taken a full circle. We have got a we thought there's a Democrat who has come in, but he's a radical Islamist. He's unleashed very strong Islamic forces in Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus.
In Bangladesh's case, I think it was a major lapse on our case. Let me be very upfront. The radical Islamists were growing in that country, and one must understand that in any Muslim majority country, democracy is ultimately going to fail. You either take the example of Iran, Syria, whatever. Ultimately, all these Islamist radical organizations, they control the society, they control the narrative, and they force the ruler to get out, whether democratic or even the dictators. So this was bound to happen in Bangladesh. I'm not at all surprised. And Jamaat-e-Islami has a very strong hold there. But but the problem, I guess, is also with us. If you are surrounded by such devilish enemies around you, who believe in a totalitarian ideology and who kill you for your religious identity, then I think you need to come out with an appropriate response. You need to have a long-term strategic doctrine. How can you allow organizations like PFI and Jamaat-e-Islami to flourish in your country? Today, I was coming to my city from one airport, and I saw a few females totally dressed up in burqa, and they refused to show their faces because the security guard had to match the iCard face with their faces. So I think we need to have a very robust strategic understanding of this ideology, of these issues, and I don't think balkanization of Pakistan will be a problem. See, Balochi resistance movement is a secular resistance movement. If Balochistan becomes an independent country, they will be a friend to India. Secondly, if the Pashtun areas become independent, if Taliban takes over them or the Afghanistan takes over them, I think we don't have a problem because India enjoys a very robust goodwill in Afghanistan. And regarding Taliban also, I must say, though they are definitely a radical Islamist organization, but as far as India is concerned, they don't have those transnational ambitions like Al-Qaeda. They are connected with them, but still we can use them as our tactical allies. Now, remaining part comes to Sindh. Even Sindh is not happy with Pakistan. So once you are left with this Punjab province, which is the hotbed of terrorism, you need to make them dysfunctional. You need to punish that radical jihadist army. And once you neutralize, once you defang them, then you need to come out with a robust solution to.
Abhinav, it's a long debate. You know why? Because Americans tried de-Baathification of Iraq, and I don't know what happened. It ended up creating an ISIS.
That's different. The de-Baathification of Iraq, that's a different case. I guess the geopolitical, the local dynamics in this area are different.
We'll have it. I don't want to lose this opportunity. I want to go back to General Saxena very quickly. And then, he also has a question. I want to know, why didn't Pakistan use airplanes this time? Last time there was a dogfight. Why didn't they use their planes? When they said we have you said J-17s, 4.5 generation. Why didn't they press them into action, sir?
I didn't get your question. Say again.
So why didn't? Okay, please ask my question. No, you ask my question.
Yeah, we were asking why didn't Pakistan not use the Air Force this time around?
Last time they did it.
Yeah, you see the game.
And before, sir, take my question as well before you start answering. One is, why didn't Pakistan use the Air Force? And second is, tell us from here on, what should India be doing? Tell us that as well.
Yes. You see, using an Air Force of yours and crossing into the other country's territory, either for a preemptive strike or for strikes which are off the targets, is a different threshold of combat. Is a different threshold of combat than the ones which are sending hundreds and hundreds of drones into your country along with rocket artillery and missile fire in trying to achieve something for which the bigger game is waiting. They said that if this aim is achieved, like I was trying to explain, what is the big game? It is not 71. It is not Kargil. It is 2025. Where drones have emerged to be the vehicles of choice in starting the war and also carrying it out to a long time. Ukraine is the only country in the world which has a separate arm controlling only the drones. And they have claimed that at one point at peak of their capability, 2 million drones a year, then I'll say, or they'll say 1 million, if support given 2 million. Now you see this drone power, like I said, why this thing was escalating? things would have escalated further. Things would have escalated further. But when they are achieving their aim of carrying out their strikes, finding out our gaps, finding out our deployments to be supported by more lethal drones, more precise strikes, things would have worked. Now, if you see your own Air Force also, we only used standoff precision bombs. We also did not have that. The combat did not escalate to that level of threshold where ground forces and air forces would have engaged. That is only my humble understanding. But my information is only open source. It does not have any official endorsement. But it's my thinking that it is the drone and counter-drone warfare which actually has become the order of the day to take the combat from one level to another level and the next level. That is where it is not a choice why they didn't use. The situation was still developing. And also, as somebody, I think again, Dr. Abhinav said, let us not make too much of this ceasefire and this word that every act of terror will be treated as an act of war. The situation is still developing, as Ambassador brought out. Let it emerge. Let us understand as to what is the connotation of saying that every act of terror will be considered an act of war. And how will it play out in future? It is still very, 3:35 is just about 3-4 hours before.
Yeah.
Let us wait and
Absolutely.
watch.
Absolutely.
Let's wait and watch.
I agree with you.
Completely agree with you, Lieutenant General V.K. Saxena. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on this broadcast.
Lovely, lovely.
K. Mishra, Dr.
Beautiful.
Abhinav Pandya.
Thank you, then. Jai
Thank you
Hind.
for being with us on
Jai
this
Hind.
broadcast.
Jai Sindhu.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
And with
Jai
that,
Hind, Jai
we
Sindhu.
are taking a very short, right now we will go back and listen into what are the announcements that were from the Indian front. First, from India's Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, and then from India's Armed Forces, the briefing by the Ministry of Defense. Let's listen in.
Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours.
As the Foreign Secretary had said, you're aware there's an understanding that has been reached to stop all military activities at sea, on the air and on the land. And the Indian Navy, Indian Army and the Indian Air Force have been instructed to adhere to this understanding. Since the tragic events at Pahalgam, you're aware that our responses have been measured and very responsible. Details of these have been shared with you over the past few days through our various press briefings. What has also happened is that there is a significant amount of misinformation that is being undertaken from the other side. And as a professional military organization, we thought it is also our duty to dispel those misinformation aspects, as also state the facts of the case as they stand. Towards that, I will now hand over to my colleague, Colonel Qureshi.
नमस्कार। अब मैं आपको पाकिस्तान की मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कैंपेन के बारे में अवगत कराऊंगी। पहला, पाकिस्तान ने यह क्लेम किया कि उसने अपने JF-17 से हमारे S-400 व ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल बेस को नुकसान पहुंचाया, जो कि बिल्कुल गलत है। दूसरा, उसका ये भी मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कैंपेन था कि हमारी एयरफील्ड, जो कि सिरसा, जम्मू, पठानकोट, बठिंडा, नलिया और भुज में है, ये उसका मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन भी बहुत गलत है। तीसरा, पाकिस्तान के मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन कैंपेन के मुताबिक हमारे एम्यूनिशन डम्प्स जो चंडीगढ़ और बियास में है, उसका डैमेज हुआ, यह भी बिल्कुल गलत है। हमने आपको मॉर्निंग ब्रीफिंग में बताया था विद फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर के साथ कि ये सारी चीजें बिल्कुल सही सलामत हैं। अब मैं आपको बताना चाहती हूँ कि पाकिस्तान के एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में ये बात की गई थी कि उनके सीनियर मिलिट्री ऑफिसर्स जो कि पूरी तरह से ये भ्रामक है और तथ्यों से दूर है कि पाकिस्तान की ओर से ये झूठा आरोप भी लगाया जा रहा है कि भारतीय सेना ने मस्जिदों को नुकसान पहुंचाया। मैं इससे बिल्कुल स्पष्ट करना चाहती हूं कि इंडिया इज ए सेक्युलर नेशन और हमारी सेना भारत के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल वैल्यूज की एक बहुत प्यारी झलक है। इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान को बहुत भारी नुकसान पहुंचाया, उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स को, चाहे वो लैंड एसेट्स हो या फिर उनके एयर एसेट्स। यही नहीं, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान की एयरफील्ड स्कर्दू, जकोबाबाद, सरगोदा और बुलारी को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान के एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम, रडार सिस्टम, उनको भी एयर स्पेस में अनटेनेबल किया। यह भी बताना चाहती हूँ कि लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल के पास पाकिस्तान के कमांड एंड कंट्रोल, लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशन और उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, मिलिट्री पर्सनल का इतना भारी नुकसान हुआ कि पाकिस्तान की ऑफेंसिव और डिफेंसिव कैपेबिलिटी को नष्ट कर दिया गया। अंत में मैं फिर से ये बात दोहराना चाहूंगी, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस पूरी तरह से तैयार है, सतर्क है और भारत की संप्रभुता और अखंडता की रक्षा के लिए पूरी तरह से कमिटेड है। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
Several attempts were made by Pakistan on spreading a misinformation campaign, as we have seen for the last few days. There were attempts made to say that our S-400 at a northern base was destroyed, which was completely false, and that it was destroyed by a JF-17. It was a false information. Also, that the BrahMos installation was attacked and it was destroyed was false. The destruction of airfields at Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Bhuj, Nalia, etc. was also a false claim. The forward ammunition dump at Chandigarh and Beas are also fit and fine, and we showed you these in the photographs in the morning briefing today. Also, there was a certain different way of miscampaign that the Pakistan conducted by its press conferences, which was conducted in a manner which was completely misleading and devoid of facts. Pakistan has been spreading fabricated allegations that the Indian armed forces have targeted mosques. Let us make this very clear here, that India is a secular nation and the Indian armed forces are a reflection of our constitutional values. We hold every place of worship of all faiths in the highest regard. Our operations have been aimed exclusively at terrorist camps and facilities being used for anti-India activities. No religious sites, I repeat, no religious sites have been targeted by the Indian Armed Forces. Over the past few days, as we have seen, Pakistan all has suffered very heavy and unsustainable losses after it has given us an unprovoked attack on our installations. It has suffered losses in both land and air. There has been an extensive damage to the crucial Pakistani air bases like Skardu, Sargoda, Jacobabad and Bholari. In addition, a loss of AD weapon system and radars made the defense of Pakistani airspace untenable. Across the line of control, extensive and precise damage to military infrastructure and command control centers and logistics installations. In addition to that, 2 military personnel had led to complete breakdown of its defensive and offensive capability and also Pakistani morale.
In conclusion, let me reiterate that whilst we will be adhering to the understanding that has been reached today, that is the Indian Army, the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force, We remain fully prepared and ever vigilant and committed to defending the sovereignty and integrity of the motherland. Every misadventure by Pakistan has been met with strength, and every future escalation will invite a decisive response. We remain fully operationally ready to launch whatever operations may be required in defense of the nation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
बेबो का एक ही रूल, रोज खाओ अंडे विदाउट भूल।
Cause eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Summer में एनर्जी हो जाती है कम, खाओ अंडे एनर्जेटिक रहो हरदम। Strength और power मिले हर रोज with proteins and minerals का daily dose. Eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool.
संडे हो या मंडे, रोज खाओ अंडे।
Mama must be missing us, na?
Let's take you for a spin, give me one day. Feel the itch under my skin, it's a one day. You believe it when you see me and done, hey.
It doesn't matter, just gotta get going.
New GT line, Tygoon and Virtus. Volkswagen.
India-Pakistan, tensions erupt. Operation Sindoor underway. Speculation everywhere, but truth only here. News 9, no noise, only news.
उड़ी सेक्टर में इस समय हम मौजूद है और लगातार उड़ी सेक्टर में शेलिंग जो है वो हो रहा है।
There's also a barrage of news items coming in, but let's quickly run our viewers through what's transpired since late last night.
We neutralized an air defense system in Lahore.
A lot of sources of information and disinformation which are at play, so I think it's important to be careful at this point.
Verified, fact-checked, authentic, real-time. Only facts, only News 9.
So these are corroborated information that we're bringing to our viewers right now.
Underline India's targeted and measured response to cross-border terrorism.
Pakistan is attacking civilian areas.
This swarm drone attack is in itself a major retaliation against India.
Your only source, your only destination. News 9. Stay sharp, stay ahead of the curve.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
The big headlines: India and Pakistan announce a full and immediate ceasefire after mediation by the US. India's Foreign Secretary says that the decision was taken after Pakistan's DGMO called his Indian counterpart at 3:35 p.m. today. The next round of DGMO level talks have been scheduled for the 12th of May at 12 noon. India's External Affairs Ministry says that India stands resolute in its stand against terror. Indian Army rubbishes Pakistan's misinformation campaign, says Pakistan has suffered heavy losses. The big story: there has been a ceasefire that has been agreed to by India and Pakistan after the United States of America, led by President Donald Trump, mediated talks. And after the announcement of the ceasefire, Prime Minister Modi chaired a high-level security meeting with India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, National Security Advisor NSA Ajit Doval, the Chief of the Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, and the Chiefs of the Tri-Services. Visuals on your screens are of that high-level meeting chaired by the Prime Minister after the ceasefire was announced. Bear in mind, it first came from US President Donald Trump when he posted it on his social media platform Truth Social, and then it was Secretary of State of the US Marco Rubio who followed suit, and eventually there was an announcement from Pakistan's Foreign Minister, and then the briefing by India's Foreign Secretary and India's armed forces that confirmed the fact that all military action have been seized as of 5 p.m. today, 1700 hours. That was the official announcement. The ceasefire called at 5 p.m. today. We have Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former Indian diplomat, Major General S.P. Asthana, author, Director, USI of India and former DG of the Infantry, Air Marshal V.P.S. Rana, Defense and Strategy expert, and we have also Patikrit Paine, Foreign Affairs expert, now joining us. Thank you all of you for being with us on this broadcast as this big story continues to break and we continue to track all the latest developments. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, one is the fact that these were, from the looks of it all, back channel talks that eventually led to this ceasefire. But one can't help but think the fact that the Pakistan was squeezed. It was put into a corner where it had no option but to agree to the ceasefire.
Well, thanks for having me on your show. You're absolutely right that Pakistan was squeezed into the corner. It was taking a very heavy beating. And although it was putting out a lot of fake news, such as the fact that it was downing Indian fighter jets and that it was destroying the Indian anti-aircraft missile air defense system, the fact is that people realized this was fake news. There's an old saying, you can fool some people for some time, but you can't fool all the people for all the time. And even Pakistanis knew that their government was putting out fake news. So, there is no doubt that the costs of the escalation were becoming too high for Pakistan, and the authorities there realized that if there is further escalation, then the cost would become unbearable. We all know that the Pakistan economy is in shambles. It can't take such heavy costs. So the beating that we were giving to the Pakistanis had a telling effect, and the Pakistanis found that there was absolutely no way for them to continue to escalate, and that is why the DGMO made this call to his counterpart in India and sought the ceasefire. Now, there is no doubt that the Americans also played some role. In fact, President Donald Trump was the first one to put out this news of the ceasefire. Now, what could have gone on? We were all very upset when at the IMF meeting, Pakistan was given the loan of $1 billion. But putting things in perspective, it is not unlikely that this loan was facilitated and agreed to by the US government on condition that Pakistan agrees to a ceasefire. Because there is no doubt that the Americans also knew what Pakistan was going through, that it was getting a beating, that its finances were in distress. So to give this sort of financial package perhaps was a way to soften the blow for the Pakistanis and make them take recourse to the route of the ceasefire. But all said and done, this is a very good development. However, it doesn't mean that the danger from Pakistan comes to an end.
Yeah.
Because it's in their genes to try and harm India. Their generals have always spoken about bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. So their psychology is not changing. Their genes are not getting altered. But given the situation, they have taken a retreat and they are on the back foot. They don't want to escalate. They prefer a ceasefire. If that happens, very good. As our Prime Minister has said, this is not an era of war. India doesn't believe in war.
Yeah.
We had only intended to strike at the terror camps, and we achieved that. And if the Pakistanis don't want to escalate matters further, it's good for everybody.
That's right. After 4 days of hostilities, India and Pakistan have finally agreed on a ceasefire. That ceasefire was agreed upon. Bear in mind, let me repeat, after Pakistan's DGMO called his Indian counterpart, and the next round of talks between the DGMOs of India and Pakistan is set to be held on the 12th of May at 12 noon. The US has clearly claimed that it was the one which mediated talks between India and Pakistan to reach this ceasefire. Time now to take you through how India brought Pakistan to its knees. Let's talk about that further. We have Major General Asthana as well with us. Major General Asthana, this is a very important point to remember even as we breathe this sigh of relief with the ceasefire, isn't it? India has displayed remarkable capabilities when it comes to deterring Pakistan on land and in the air, and has also taught a lesson to Pakistan that any misadventure, this is what India is capable of doing, which means all I can think of at this stage is that the escalation matrix, or so-called the levels of escalation, is already at a very heightened state at this stage. So any action from Pakistan, and that's the reason why we had that statement that came in before the ceasefire statement, which is that any act of terror in the future, any future act of terror will be considered an act of war. Those words are also very telling, isn't it? And you corroborate that with the statement from India's armed forces, which said that India's armed forces continues to remain ready for any misadventure, any operation to be launched to defend the motherland. These paint a picture of where India stands and what has changed post Operation Sindoor, isn't it?
Certainly, it's a welcome news, and to put the things in context, I agree with what Ambassador has said. Now, let me add certain things to it. Firstly, there is no doubt that after this episode and these exchanges in last 3 days have shown the professionalism of Indian military and the preparedness of Indian military. The way every single drone was destroyed also showed the kind of air defense, their training, their capability, the equipment and the integration of the equipment and man-machine integration. That's as far as the military part is concerned. As far as the diplomatic part is concerned, our message was very clear initially that we are destroying the terror infrastructure and it is not escalatory. Now, apparently, the moment that happened, and once we launched the operations on 7th of May, Pakistanis knew what the cost is, and they ran to USA and they tried to perhaps convince them how to stop India. Although on ground they were putting a brave front by sending some drones initially without ammunition and subsequently with ammunition, and perhaps to convince their local population that they are still very strong and they command they need some kind of respect in that context. So that was one. But this episode exposed so many things. One was the terrorists' funeral being attended by their chief, by the military officers, and that was, I think, we played up to all over the world. As far as the IMF loan is concerned, I agree with the ambassador that what must have happened is they must have been told that okay, we will sanction your loan, but your DGMO should now ring up the DGMO of Indian Army and say that we need ceasefire. And that is why I think at 3:30 Pakistani DGMO rang up the Indian DGMO, and that's how. And that was perhaps agreed upon, and of course,
that's not the usual standard operating procedure, isn't it? It's like both the DGMOs usually, when they have a call on that hotline, the direct line between them, they both come at the same time, and they're told that no, their counterpart has been put online. That's when they have this conversation. This time around, it was different. It was the Pakistani DGMO that called India's DGMO.
See, the hotline is between these two personalities straight away. So, but the question is, to get onto the telephone and speak, that initiative was taken by Pakistani DGMO. Yeah. And it's not by choice. He has been told to do it because the cost was very high. Yeah. They knew that there is a very heavy economic cost to pay. Now, let's put it this way. I'm amplifying. This does not mean that their idea of terrorism has ended. This also does not mean that the threat of terrorism has gone, because the terror, the terror factory will continue to invent new methods to harm India in some manner or the other. But what is happening is that we went with the aim to punish the terrorists and give a strong message. That has been done. If we go by an unrealistic aim like Netanyahu that I will finish everything, America took 20 years of fighting in Afghanistan and still I think all terrorists are not finished. So there is a difference between a realistic aim and a practical aim and a strong message. So this part I think has been done, and India has agreed with a strong message again that any act of terror hereafter will be treated as an act of war. So we have kept that option open. As far as the non-kinetic measures are concerned, we haven't heard anything about it because the Indus Water Treaty still remains is still in abeyance, and we certainly would like to utilize all our water which is due to us.
In fact, Major Lastana, not just Indus Water Treaty, we haven't heard about anything else. All the other actions that have been taken by
all
India.
Other actions are still in place till somebody briefs us to say that okay, those actions no longer exist.
All right, fair enough. Let me bring in Air Marshal VPS Rana as well into the conversation. Air Marshal VPS Rana, it's an important moment, but all said and done, the state of war, the state of play has completely changed. It is Pakistan which has managed to get a bailout because it is going to agree to this ceasefire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Pakistan has been pushed to the corner and they had no choice but to come to this table and seek de-escalation. They've been trying it for, I think, for last many hours, if not the previous evening. But the indicators of the IMF loan, I think, was one when, against our expectations, it was given. So I think there was indication that probably Pakistan would be given this conditional loan and thereafter would be forced to come down. Similarly, on this today, when this thing had come, when we said that we will act and we will treat any terror act as a as an act of the war, I think that was another indication that probably now things are coming down, and now we are trying to redefine our status and our standing, that hereinafter nothing of this will get tolerated. Obviously, there are international pressures to settle the issues, to come to the halt. But I think we are in a position of strength today. We have put our cards right. We have done all our actions correctly. We have shown the path to, we have shown to Pakistan that what can be done with our precise and calculated, but yet very, very effective operations. So I think for us, in any case, it is in the interest of everybody that war does not take place. But should we stop here is anybody's guess. Will Pakistan stop here is anybody's guess. Like General Asthana also said, to expect Pakistan that their entire terror factory will get neutralized, I think it's daydreaming. But we have to find ways and means to continue to strangulate Pakistan through non-kinetic means. We should not come down on all those issues. We've been wanting to negotiate IWT for a very, very long time. For almost last 3-4 years, we've been, after Pakistan to come to and renegotiate IWT, which was completely in Pakistan's favor, and it does not favor us at all. So under the changed circumstances of the climatic changes and the many other issues, demographic changes, this treaty needed a renegotiation, and that is also one of the reasons why World Bank is now saying no, it is between two of you, and they've just said that we will come to table only both of you agree. So all these non-kinetic means, I think we must continue. We must not let our thing, but one thing that we should do, and I'm sure our armed forces are doing every time there's a conflict, we do that. We assess the situation. We see where, what were the tactics used by them, what was their intent, what was their deployment. I'm sure we have gathered a whole lot of this intelligence, and based on that, we refine our strategy, refine our actions for future. So, we were very quick. I'm just going back a little this thing. We were very quick when we got struck by drone in 2021. And that time, none of this, the drone warfare had not come into focus then. But we were very, very quick. Jammu Air Force Station was struck. We were quick to grasp that and develop the drone warfare capabilities. From then on, we did a lot of indigenous improvisation, modification of our own weapon systems. And see, this is where we are today. Those very drones, which otherwise had created so much of nuisance in Ukraine-Russia war, we were able to handle it well. So this is how you approach every situation. In this case, whatever has happened, we have demonstrated our capabilities, but I'm sure we need to refine quite a few tactics
and continue to keep our guards up, because the ceasefire basically means that the recent escalation has now been stopped, has been put in deep freeze mode, but doesn't mean that our ability, our deterrence, our ability to deter any future attacks needs to, we need to take the guard down by any stretch of imagination. Pathikrit Paine, foreign affairs expert, also with us. Pathikrit Paine, we've seen Pakistan go crying to the US on many occasions over the past many years, from the time from 1947 when India raised Kashmir to the UN, till even Balakot in 2019. This has been a very familiar pattern with Pakistan, isn't it?
Well, it's a familiar pattern we have been seeing from the time of Prithviraj Chauhan. We keep on forgiving the adversary. The adversary comes back with larger, power to, create more problems for us. So we have to be very careful. I have the highest respect for government of India. We have spectacularly, the armed forces have performed. Modi government has tremendously invested in military modernization in the last 10 years. And all of that was visible in the way India performed in the last 3-4 days. The Operation Sindoor itself has been a classic example of India's capabilities. But it was only yesterday that, Pakistan launched tactical ballistic missile towards Delhi. Today, we can't keep on saying that this is not an act of war. Today, we can't say that, oh, they have agreed to a ceasefire. I mean, they will heal, recover and come back again. On the positive side, it is true that today, Government of India has made it very clear that any future act of terror will be declared as an act of war, and eventually actions will be taken. But I strongly agree to what General Asthana said, that we should not have unrealistic expectations that we should completely dismantle the whole of Pakistan. That's not possible. But I think we should have given the armed forces at least 3-4 more days to pummel them a little more, pulverize them a little more, bring them down to their knees. Don't give them a face saver. They got a face saver today. And let me tell you, if we say that the IMF loan was conditional, yesterday evening the loan was sanctioned. By night they were launching tactical ballistic missiles towards us. So what kind of condition was the Americans putting? It is just that the Pakistanis knew that today morning the way the armed forces performed, destroyed most of their major air bases. They have been devastated. The air defense system has been totally dismantled. So, like Mohammed bin Ghori, they raised their hand and surrender, and we agreed to it. Now tell me, what is the guarantee? And I'm sure the government also knows that they will come back again, and I'm sure the government knows it better than us. So there will be preparation. But I think, have we done enough? What was our end objective when they started that barrage of attack on us? They attacked us. They just attacked us. So, and I always believe that when they have an attack like this, your response has to be disproportionately high to create a bar of consequence. Our response has always been proportionate, controlled, and I'm sorry, our press conferences have been extremely dull. We did not try to win the narrative war. We should have exposed far more than what we did. Our press conferences were busy preaching secularism. That is not what you do when you are fighting a rogue state like Pakistan. I have the highest respect for Modi government for what has been done, but I think we should be very cautious of everything. Very cautious. You're dealing with a rogue state which was fighting for terror. Please understand, Pakistan was fighting for terror in the last 3 days. They went to this conflict with India for terror. And it has been rewarded with a $1 billion loan. And it was a given. The West has always kept Pakistan afloat so that they can keep on nurturing terrorism. So that they keep on, create problem for us. We should have no illusion. And I have a very big problem that the first information was given by Donald Trump. Who is he? With all due respect that he is the President of the United States. Why is the first tweet not from the government of India? Why is it from him? That is where I think we should, and please understand, there are cost-benefit analysis. Of course, we are a $5 trillion economy aspiring to be one. We have to think about economy. We have raised the bar of consequence. We have told them, but you are dealing with a rogue state. So we have to be very careful instead of being celebratory today. From
Fair
today
enough.
onwards.
Point taken. Stay with us, Pathikrit. Paina, you're talking to us about the narrative that's very important over here. Talking about the narrative, let's listen into what India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri had to say when he came out to announce that ceasefire.
Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours.
Well, that was a statement from Vikram Misri. Meanwhile, India's armed forces carried out precision attacks on Pakistani military targets. India struck 11 air bases after Pakistan used UCAVs or unmanned combat aerial vehicles, UCAVs, and drones and long-range weapons and loitering munitions and fighter aircraft to target civilian areas in India and also India's military infrastructure along the western border. Now, addressing as part of the government briefing, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri alongside Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh said that Pakistan continued to provoke India through aggressive actions along India's western border. And they said that it was a deplorable and cowardly act when Pakistan attacked civilian areas including a medical center and school premises. Now this was the first briefing of the day before the ceasefire was announced eventually.
In a swift and calibrated response, Indian Armed Forces carried out precision attacks only on identified military targets. These included technical infrastructure, command and control centers, radar sites and weapon storage areas. Pakistan military targets at Rafiqi, Murid, Chaklala, Rahim Yar Khan, Sukur and Chunya were engaged using air-launched precision weapons from our fighter aircraft. Radar sites at Pasroor and Sialkot Aviation Base were also targeted using precision munitions. While carrying out these responses, India ensured minimum collateral damage. Pakistan has also attempted to execute a continued malicious misinformation campaign with claims of destruction of Indian S-400 system at Adampur, destruction of airfields at Suratgarh and Sirsa, BrahMos base at Nagrota, RT gun positions at Derangyari and Chandigarh Forward Ammunition Depot, with heavy damages to other military stations being propagated on social media. India unequivocally rejects these false narratives being spread by Pakistan.
That was a statement that came in as we discussed the ceasefire, the questions surround how Pakistan was brought to its knees to this ceasefire because of the heavy damages caused by India in its response. We have Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, former Indian diplomat, with us. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, it was not even 12 hours since Pakistan launched attacks on India's military infrastructure by the time the ceasefire was called. So at this stage, tell us, what it felt abrupt, it seemed abrupt, it seemed like it came too quickly. Would you agree with Patikrit Paine that we agreed to the ceasefire a little too early?
Well, I have the highest regard for Patikrit. We have done a number of TV discussions earlier, but I don't find myself in agreement with him in regard to the remarks which he made today. Firstly, for instance, he said that we didn't do a good job as regards the press conference. Now, I agree. The press conference was low-key. It was not theatrical. But then, the government doesn't have to be theatrical. The press conference was to the point, focused, and addressed the issues, including, of course, issues like the fake sort of propaganda which the Pakistanis have been carrying out. At the same time, the message from the press conference went across very clearly. First of all, the message went to Pakistan that India is determined. India is not overworked. India is not tensed. India is very relaxed, and India will be able to handle this problem in a matter-of-fact way. Secondly, a very important message went that there was unity among different religious sections of India. Now, if you recall, the Pahalgam terror attack itself was intended to divide Hindus and Muslims. They had singled out Hindu men, killed them, and told their wives to go and tell Modi. Now, was that not a divisive sort of message? But by holding the press conference where there were two lady officers, one a Muslim, one a Hindu or a non-Muslim, was a very significant manner in which we conveyed that we stand together. India is not divided. And believe me, I have followed the media analysis in a number of Muslim countries, and they have highlighted this. They have pointed out how India had chosen two army officers, lady officers, and one of them was a Muslim, and how this message was very, very impactful. Now, as regards this issue of whether or not we should have accepted the ceasefire, there are matters where we have to leave things to the judgment of government. Government realizes what the stakes are. Government realizes the various aspects of the situation which outsiders like us cannot be aware of. So it's all right to sit back on your armchair and reflect and say that the government should not have accepted the ceasefire. Government should have continued to give a bashing. But look, we are sitting here in Delhi and safe places. There were people near the border and they were going through a very difficult time. It was in the interest of all those people who were continually facing a barrage of attacks from across the border that government settles this matter expeditiously. Believe me, if there are people who think that government should not have accepted this ceasefire at this time, they are in an insignificant minority. By and large, the country is very happy with the decision that was taken. And in particular, people who live along the borders and were within striking range, they are very happy. Don't forget that a missile was shot down near Sirsa. The Pakistanis were trying to come as close as possible to Delhi. And why should we have left things to chance? Suppose there was a missile which even accidentally came across, the damage would have been quite a severe one. So I think government did the right thing. Government knows what the overall calculations are. I am strongly supportive of all decisions that the government has taken in this regard, right from the launching of the strikes on the 9 terror sites in Pakistan, which accommodated the terrorists which were their bases, from the very, very controlled rhetoric at the press conferences, the very, very confident manner in which we put the message across, and at the same time, in the gradually escalated fashion in which we conducted the military operation, and the fact that we agreed to the ceasefire when we thought that the time is right. So I am strongly supportive of everything that the government has done in this entire saga.
Fair enough. Ambassador Prabhudev, I'll stay with us. Now, let's jog our memories back in terms of similar scenarios and what Pakistan did in those similar scenarios. So we have that for you. In 1947-48, when there was a US-backed UN resolution after India raised Kashmir at the United Nations, that was the first instance when Pakistan went crying to the US. And then again, in 1965, US supported ceasefire via the United Nations, and that eventually led to the Tashkent Agreement back in 1965. And then post that again in 1971, that time the US in fact sided with Pakistan, sent US during the East Pakistan war that eventually led to the formation of Bangladesh. That was 1971. And then again in 1999, that's when Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif pleaded with the US President Bill Clinton, and then US demanded a pullback in Kargil back in 1999. And then again 2019, post Balakot, Pakistan again sought US help, and at that point in time Secretary of State Mike Pompeo backed India's terror stance on every single occasion. And then now post 2019 to 2025 right now, there has been a very clear pattern of what happened when there is an escalation and when there is an Indian response, and then eventually the US is drawn into the picture. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, from Clinton to Trump, we've seen, and even before that, tell us in terms of how exactly this is working for Pakistan time and again, because this time around, like Patikar Pen is asking, many would have asked that question again. Pakistan is clearly on the back foot. If it wasn't for the US mediation, there's a very good chance that India would have continued.
Well, as I said, the decisions which were taken by government were in the light of all the available insights available to it. Government just doesn't reach a decision like that. There is a very strong brainstorming which includes various sections. I'm sure that this brainstorming would have included the intelligence services, the armed forces, the external affairs ministries, sources. So government decisions are not taken just in an offhand manner. They are taken after very careful consideration. And I'm sure that considering the different aspects of the matter, government felt that if the Pakistanis were approaching for a ceasefire now, given the overall situation, we should accept it. As I said earlier, there were certain sections within India which could have been impacted very adversely with the continuation of the conflict. And I referred particularly to the people who live alongside the border. Their interests have to be factored in. They didn't want an escalation of the conflict. They wanted this to come to an end. And I think they are very relieved. Sitting here in Delhi, I'm sure we perhaps never felt so endangered. So we say government should not have accepted the ceasefire. I think that this logic is completely wrong.
Okay.
Government has sent across a very important message to Pakistan that we can crush you when we want. So if you want to trouble us, you are asking for trouble. That message has gone across. It was the Pakistanis who sought the ceasefire. We have not gone
Fair enough.
them
Fair enough.
on a
Fair enough.
Let me also just add one thing.
Okay.
The continuation of the war would have been very expensive for Pakistan, but it is not cost-free for us. Why should we take on these costs? The Prime Minister of India has repeatedly said this is not an era of war. His focus is something else. He wants to develop India into one of the biggest economies, the third largest economy by 2030. His focus is elsewhere. This war was a distraction, and it became necessary only because of the Pahalgam terror attack. And we would not have escalated had Pakistan not done so. So let's put matters in perspective. Our objectives are separate. This was an irritant which came along. We have settled the irritant. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's move forward. Air Marshal VPS Rana, one thing that stands out, in as far as Operation Sindhu is concerned, as far as what has transpired in the last 4 days is concerned, is the air deterrence capabilities of India, be it the missiles from Pakistan or the drones from Pakistan. They've been the ones that's crucial when it comes to squeezing Pakistan and pushing them into that corner to make sure that they need this ceasefire far sooner than later, because one is that they don't have the economy, they don't have the money to continue with a long drawn war. That was there on everybody's mind. But to push for the ceasefire, to agree to the ceasefire, to ask for this ceasefire from India in just 4 days, from the time it took down their air defense HQ9 to our ability to cause some serious damage, it's been our air defense, because no Pakistani drone, no Pakistani missile came into Indian territory without being intercepted.
Absolutely. I think as far as the air operations parts are concerned and air defense part is concerned, I think we have scored perfect 10. As I covered in your programs earlier also, we have focused our operations on effect-based operations. The very precise attack to the point, and just for the keeping it in a right perspective, we achieved the results probably what we had not achieved in 71 war, even in 10 days, 12 days. And that is primarily because the kind of weaponry that we have today, kind of platforms that we have today, kind of technological edge that we have today, we could do it without, doing any large scale damage, and yet we could bring Pakistan down to their knees. Primarily because we could strike at our will, and we did. We almost did. Almost all of their airfields have been struck, and they've been struck. We are yet to get the damage assessment, but I am sure the very fact that they have quickly come to the negotiation table. Just within 12 hours of we striking all their bases, all their radar system, their command and control systems. Believe you me, we will not get to know the real picture, but the moment you hit their command and control centers, the moment you hit their air defense system, the moment you hit their air force bases, it has a huge psychological impact. And like I said, we could create this in 71 probably after 10 days of continuous pounding to all this thing, and took a hell of a lot of beating ourselves. And they also did so much of damage to us. They came right up to our airfield. They struck us while we were not still into war, and did so much damage to our inventory of the aircraft, of the radar, of the airfields. Today, none of our airfields got impacted. We have downed there almost every projectile that was thrown at us. And I must tell you, air defense is a very complex process. It's not so easy. It's not that something will be thrown at you and you will launch something and bring it down. It's not like that. Air defense works 24/7 even during peacetime, and it's a very complex process. You detect through your huge network of radars. Then you go through the processes of identification, allocation of that target to appropriate weapon, then appropriate weapon again, then within its own AD system, then seeking an appropriate launcher and appropriate number of missiles or the barrage of the gun. So it sounds very simple that the drone has come and drone has been down, missile has come and missile has been down. But believe you me, this is a very complex process. And we have been at top of this game primarily because we have developed all these systems indigenously. We knew our systems inside out. Our people are trained, whether they are working on the air defense systems or on the command and control systems, any which way. So it is not only the weapon system that is available to you. It is also the training that is there to your personnel and their commitment to the job at hand. HQ9 is almost similar. The predecessor of S400 and HQ9 is same, S300. And see what we have done to HQ9. And they, as far as they are concerned, they could only say that yes, we have damaged S400, which was absolutely untrue. So we have achieved in terms of our offensive capability and our air defense capability, which is, I think, unparalleled in modern warfare. Let me tell you, even Israel, with all their sophisticated weapon systems, have got hit. And that similar Hamas style was also demonstrated now by Pakistan, and yet we were able to neutralize all their projectiles, the missiles, the aircraft, whatever came. Aircraft never ever came closer. Primarily because of this, that they had proved our system, that what kind of efficiency and efficacy we have against anything that is thrown at us. And they knew that in case they are launching any offensive with their manned aircraft, they will be really taking the beating. So we have proven to the world, not only to the Pakistan, even to the world, that we have this sophisticated offensive and air defense capability, and nobody should mess around as far as that is concerned. And I think that has driven home the point to Pakistan and also to the world.
Yeah, very important point driven home to Pakistan and to the world. Patikrit Paine, if you're talking about those media briefings, it was very clear when the India's armed services, the Ministry of Defence's media briefing, that that Indian armed forces are ready to do any operation to defend the motherland. The message is loud and clear, and even that statement that came from the government of India in the lead up to the ceasefire announcement, that an act of terror will be considered as an act of war. Future acts of terror will be considered as an act of war. It goes by the same principles from which this Operation Sindoor began. We targeted 9 terror bases in Pakistan. That was the only intent. We did not target Pakistani military infrastructure or Pakistani civilians. It's only when Pakistan started targeting our military infrastructure and our civilians that we chose to hit back and target their military infrastructure. Even then we didn't target our civilians. So we were never for escalation in the first place, but the message has been sent loud and clear that if none of this, these kind of Pahalgam will not be tolerated again. That's the big message coming in right now.
Krishna, first of all, I reiterate that I have the highest respect for the government of India, and I can equally understand what Air Marshal Rana talked about, the Akash centered integrated air defense system, 4 and 5 layered, how it operated, and the manner in which in the last 12 hours, Indian Air Force literally played and toyed with the Pakistan airfields. And that is the reason Pakistan came and pleaded for this ceasefire. It is not because of the border regions. Today morning, Krishna, I'm sure your channel also showed in Chandigarh, when the administration asked for people to volunteer for civil defense, there was a stampede. So many people came. In Jammu, and I'm not sitting in Delhi right now. In Jammu, people were overwhelming support of what the government of India was doing. I am not a warmonger. Let me be made very clear. The only thing I'm saying is that what the Air Force did, probably we should have done a little more. Maybe by tomorrow, let them plead a little more. That's the only thing. And because I completely respect what the government of India has taken a decision in terms of this ceasefire, the only caveat is this: we have the Tashkent agreement, the Shimla agreement, what happened in 99 in front of us, and we should be very, very careful. That is the only thing. What the Pakistan army got today was a face saver. They got an exit gate. That is the only thing I'm asking for. We should have humiliated them a little more. And you might say that, no, we should not do it. Somebody might say that we are armchairs, we don't understand. But in this era of narrative war, information or disinformation warfare, you're dealing with a rogue state. What they were doing after the Balakot airstrike, they were parading our wing commander.
But if you look at that briefing by Ministry of Defense, there are 3 big takeaways from that briefing. One was the fact that briefing intended to take down Pakistan's misinformation campaign. Everything from Pakistan, whatever Pakistan's claim that Indian forces attacked mosques on Pakistani soil, that claim was completely debunked. Pakistan claimed that there was damage done to India's S-400 air defense system. That claim was debunked. And also, the same briefing also went on to talk about the kind of damages inflicted upon Pakistan by India with its actions as well. And the third important point was that they are ready for any action from here on. So in that sense, this was made very clear that to win the narrative war, to ensure the right narrative goes out. India is using every single of its media briefing to ensure that Pakistan does not get the upper hand in its narrative. Pakistan's lies do not get repeated across the world and believed as truth.
No, I agree, Krishna. The only thing I'm saying is that, I don't want to repeat myself. See, if Jaish-e-Mohammed sets up its training center in a Markaz, what option does Indian Air Force have otherwise than to hit it? So that is what I'm saying. They can give those disinformation. I don't think anybody in India was buying it. I don't think anybody in India was buying it. And
nobody in India was buying it, but people who are observing it, third parties, they would know where the truth lies. You know what? Before we continue this conversation, let's quickly listen to what Colonel Sophia Qureshi had to say. So yeah, let's listen in.
इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान को बहुत भारी नुकसान पहुंचाया, उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स को, चाहे वो लैंड एसेट्स हो या फिर उनके एयर एसेट्स। यही नहीं, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस ने पाकिस्तान की एयरफील्ड्स स्कर्दू, जकोबाबाद, सरगोदा और बुलारी को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया। इसके अलावा पाकिस्तान के एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम, रडार सिस्टम, उनको भी एयर स्पेस में अनटेनेबल किया। यह भी बताना चाहती हूँ कि लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल के पास पाकिस्तान के कमांड एंड कंट्रोल, लॉजिस्टिक इंस्टॉलेशंस और उनके मिलिट्री इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, मिलिट्री पर्सनल का इतना भारी नुकसान हुआ कि पाकिस्तान की ऑफेंसिव व डिफेंसिव कैपेबिलिटी को नष्ट कर दिया गया। अंत में मैं फिर से ये बात दोहराना चाहूंगी, इंडियन आर्म फोर्सेस पूरी तरह से तैयार है, सतर्क है और भारत की संप्रभुता और अखंडता की रक्षा के लिए पूरी तरह से कमिटेड है।
Right, that was the message from Colonel Sophia Qureshi as part of that media briefing. I'm going to take this back to Ambassador Prabhu Dayal before I bring it back to Patrick Penna. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, the message is loud and clear from India as far as what it means, because after that ceasefire was announced, there has been no change to all the non-kinetic actions that India has taken in the recent past, be it the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty or the blockage of trade, or the blockage of Pakistani content in India, or the sealing of the Atari-Wagah border. None of that changes now. Tell us, that's very important to send the message post the ceasefire to Pakistan and to the rest of the world as to where India stands on terrorism and what it's willing to do for it.
Well, I think the message is very clear. India will remain uncompromising in regard to terror. And you're right, the non-kinetic steps have not been retracted. Pakistan still will suffer the consequences of the Pahalgam terror attack, which had been sponsored from within Pakistan by, of course, the armed forces and the ISI. Now, what does India want out of a relationship with Pakistan? India has always tried to have a good relationship. But unfortunately, the psyche of Pakistan is such that it wants to keep harming India. Now, the message which has gone across through the recent hostilities has been that India is much stronger and that it is not in Pakistan's interest to wage any sort of warfare. Will Pakistan continue to think like this? It remains to be seen. But for sure, if we are militarily strong and Pakistan knows that we are much stronger than itself, then it will not resort to warfare. It will, of course, try to carry out some terrorist activities because, as I said, it's in their genes. Nonetheless, we have to remain militarily very, very strong. We have to keep investing in our defense infrastructure. We have to acquire modern weapon systems. There is no compromise in that context because the dangers which exist now for India will continue to exist even in the future. So keep your defenses strong. And as the old saying goes, if you want peace, be prepared for war.
If you want peace, be prepared for war. That's the message that has gone out clearly. Air Marshal VPS Rana, at this stage, it is very important what happens over the course of the next 24 hours, isn't it? The ceasefire that was called technically began at 5 p.m. So it's important to see whether Pakistan will stick to it or not.
See, Pakistan has violated ceasefire many times over. So there is nothing to feel that they will not, because they are only looking for the breather. They are getting it, and sooner they get their breath back, they probably could be at it again. So we should take that with a pinch of salt. But this time round, what has been there, the India has shown its resolve that we will not take it anymore, and we will escalate it for you, and we will hit you where it hurts you, irrespective. And I think that very statement that this terror act will be considered as an act of war, I think we must follow it very, very strictly. And anytime, any kind of terrorist activity, we must show it that we mean what we said. And then only probably we will feel that things are falling in place. But as of now, we have to take it with a pinch of salt. There are many, many positives that as a armed forces and as a nation we have taken out of this conflict. We must strengthen on those. We must refine those. Wherever we have, I'm sure we would have also found out certain gaps in our, whether in our tactics or our strategies. So we should plug those up. Like Ambassador Prabhudayal said, that we must also make sure that we remain strong militarily, because that is something without that nothing ever will work. Even in this scenario, if we were not strong enough and we had not come on top of this game, then I don't think we would have seen this de-escalation and ceasefire coming so early. So I think we have to be prepared, keep ourselves prepared every which way, refine our procedures, refine our tactics, hone on our strategies, so that we are not found wanting anytime in future.
We cannot be found wanting anytime in future, isn't it, Patikrit Pene, especially considering the events of what happened from Pahalgam till now. Even post Pahalgam, Pakistan violated ceasefire every single night.
Krishna, for the last 10 years, the enormous amount of effort put in by Modi government to modernize military has been unprecedented, and that's the reason you have seen we have created most of the weapon systems that were used even this time were made in house. And so it has an incredible paradigm shift so far as India's industrial ecosystem for defense is concerned. That part is a given. But at the same time, I reiterate, people like me, I've joined, volunteered for the civil defense, and we were all ready for anything the government would have asked for. The only thing I'm saying is that we are not warmongers. I'm not a warmonger. We have complete faith in what the government of India has done. The only contention is this rogue state is like a tumor. The moment it heals a little bit, they'll strike again, and we should be very, very careful about that. Because yes, it is true that we are a $4.5 trillion economy aspiring to be a $10 trillion economy. We have far more to lose than them. And that is why it is more important for us to keep on raising the bar of consequence on us for anything that they do. The government has done definitely that today in terms of, number one, the kind of plummeting they have that was done of their defense capability today in the morning, and I must congratulate the armed forces. And secondly, by declaring that any kind of act of war will be defined, act of terror will be declared as an act of war. But it's only a matter of time before they do something disastrous again, God forbid. But this is the character of Pakistan. This is the character that we have been dealing for the last 70 years. So we should be, content today, but we should not be celebrating because it's only around the corner that something big happens. This is the character of them. It doesn't mean that we have done something wrong. Back to you.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Ambassador Prabhudayal, former Indian diplomat, Major General, we have Air Marshal VPS Rana and Patikrit Pene. Thank you, all three of you gentlemen, for taking time out to be with us here on the broadcast on News 9. And now we have some breaking news that's coming again, where Pakistan has reportedly violated the ceasefire all over again. Heavy shelling by Pakistan across the line of control. That's the latest story that's breaking here on News 9. Explosions have been reportedly heard across Srinagar. And from the initial reports we're getting, Pakistan seems to have violated that ceasefire that technically began at 5 p.m. today, and it's not even 9 p.m., less than 4 hours since ceasefire began. Pakistan has violated the ceasefire again. Reports of heavy shelling across the line of control by Pakistan. We're trying to get you more details on this. We do know that, we just checking this on social media as well. We have Omar Abdullah, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, has put out a social media post saying that there's been explosions heard across Srinagar. We have limited details at this stage, but it seems like Pakistan has violated ceasefire yet again. This time the ceasefire, which began at 5 p.m., bear in mind, has been violated before the clock strikes 9. Disheartening developments are coming our way. A full and immediate ceasefire what was negotiated after talks mediated by the United States of America. A full and immediate ceasefire supposedly, but not the case when it comes to Pakistan, because it is continuing with its heavy shelling across the line of control as it has been over the last 48 hours. Explosions have been reportedly heard across Srinagar. That's the latest news that's breaking here on News 9. We have Aditya Raj Kaul, our Executive Editor for Strategic Affairs and National Security, now joining us on the phone. Aditya, talk to us. What's the latest that you're picking up?
Well, it's a breaking development. We are breaking first here on News 9 that there's been massive ceasefire violation across the line of control. According to the top sources in the government of India, even hours after the ceasefire and the pause in the military action between India and Pakistan achieved after hectic negotiations, Pakistan has resorted to heavy artillery firing and small arms across Aknoor, Pargwal and several other sectors of the Jammu division. Top sources in the government of India also tell TV9 network that a free hand has been given to the border security force to counter and strongly retaliate to the ceasefire violation and the firing that's coming in from the Pakistani side. On the other hand, there's panic that has gripped all across in Udhampur, Jammu, as well as in Srinagar with massive drones coming in, drone activity and blackout. Apart from that, there have been several explosions that have been heard all across in Srinagar in areas like Lal Chowk, Safapura and also near the Badami Bank cantonment. Local J&K police sources and the Indian Army have also confirmed these noises. The exact nature of the blast and the drone activity is not clear yet, but certainly a very strong, retaliation it seems from Pakistan, which has not changed. There was a ceasefire that was achieved, there was a pause in military action that was achieved, but yet it seems that Pakistan is trying to retaliate to what had happened actually, last night when India launched massive retaliatory action in Rawalpindi at the Noor Khan Air Base, the Sargodha Air Base and several other military stations of Pakistan and Air Force bases. So a very, very fluid situation right now. We urge all our viewers watching us from Kashmir, Srinagar not to panic, follow the NDMA guidelines, the local administration guidelines, and also keep in mind that you need to stay indoors. Don't venture out. Don't even go to your balconies. It is a very grim, a very volatile situation right now. We don't want you injured in this entire process. So it's important to stay indoors, try to stay inside houses or bunkers if you have them. Try to follow all the guidelines of the government of India. So it's a very, very volatile situation coming in from across Jammu and Kashmir, apart from the ceasefire violations that have taken place at the line of control and the international border with a strong response from the BSF and the Indian Army. There's activity that's been reported, drone activity across Anantnag, Budgam and Srinagar of the Kashmir Valley, and also blackout and sirens across Udhampur, Samba and other locations in Jammu and Kashmir.
Aditya Raj Kaul there bringing us that big breaking news update. Pakistan has violated ceasefire again, and this time around they're violating ceasefire in terms of both sending across drones and heavy artillery shelling and small arms fire. Explosions have been reported across Srinagar, a blackout in Baramulla and other parts because of the ceasefire violation. Disappointing news coming in. Aditya, it was expected that Pakistan does not heed to these ceasefire agreements as well as India does, but this is really quick even by Pakistani standard. Less than 4 hours since the ceasefire was sealed.
Well, yes, I should inform you that the J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has just tweeted, and I quote him, he says, "What the hell just happened to the ceasefire? Explosions heard across Srinagar." In fact, I've spoken to a lot of locals in Srinagar who have also confirmed. Top sources in the J&K police also informing me about multiple blasts that have taken place apart from the ceasefire at the border. So blasts in Srinagar, the nature of the blast, the volatility, and if at all there is any damage or casualties in this entire process is not clear as staged. But Pakistan is Pakistan. You know, you can't trust Pakistan blindly. For decades, it has continued with its, proxy war and sponsored terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, killing innocent Kashmiris, killing security forces, and launching several deadly and cowardly terror attacks across India. And this time, my analysis tells me that this is Asim Munir. This is not the Pakistan government. This is directly Asim Munir who is ordering this kind of an action, trying to break the ceasefire, even though the United States and Donald Trump himself brokered a peace agreement between India and Pakistan, and there were statements that were issued also in this regard. The DGMOs of both India and Pakistan had spoken, but at this stage, it seems like Pakistan is in no mood to continue with this ceasefire.
Right, Aditya, as you're pointing out, as Aditya Rajkot is pointing out, this could be the actions of Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir, because there has been DGMO, Director General of Military Operations level talks between India and Pakistan. We're trying to tell you more about the situation based on the details, confirmed information that we are getting at this stage. Heavy shelling by Pakistan across the line of control. We have Lieutenant General Rajiv Chopra, who commanded the Mountain Strike Corps, now joining us on the broadcast. We have Colonel Anurag Avasthi as well joining us, and Air Marshal VPS Rana with us alongside Adit Kothari, geopolitics and foreign affairs expert with us on the broadcast. We have Commodore Shrikant Kesnoor as well. Let me begin with Lieutenant General Rajiv Chopra. Lieutenant General Rajiv Chopra, this is less than 4 hours since the ceasefire came into effect. All over again, drones, missiles, drones, heavy arms shelling and small arms firing. It's as if the ceasefire was never struck in the first place. And, tell us, could this be the actions of just Pakistan's army chief and not necessarily the government?
Jai Hind, Krishna, and Jai Hind viewers. See, what happens is, the Pakistan, it is in the DNA of Pakistan, it is in its genes. It always, it's a desperate nation. It is doing desperate acts. He is well aware that the ceasefire is in place. But, like they said in the army parlance, the first and the last volleys bring maximum casualties. I think in the garb of this, that the ceasefire is there, people may get relaxed. So he is firing before he retreats. But let me tell you, our operational commanders and the tactical commanders who are on ground, they have still not put their guard down. They know the behavior pattern of Pakistan, and they would have retaliated by times more, especially whoever extends a hand to us and after that he betrays us. We must have given him a heavy punishment. And let me tell you, he wants that to culminate the operations from a position of strength. We will not allow him to do that, and we will fire devastating fires before he again comes down to his knees. But generally, the ceasefire violations are there. It takes some time for the ceasefire to settle down. But I think this is a deliberate act, and like I told you, operational and the tactical commanders on the borders, we are very, very professional. We would have given a befitting reply, and the damage would have been much more than what they have done.
Right, we're trying to get more details as well. You're saying that that the ceasefire will take a little time to settle down. Colonel Anurag Avasthi, talk to us. Is it a matter of time before this settles down, or this is another deliberate attempt by Pakistan to keep the pot boiling?
Right. Let me just make some quick points. Firstly, it demonstrates very clear overarching hold of the Pakistan army over the civil establishment. That is very clear, right? The second thing is, what we need to know is what has happened in the last 48 hours is that there has been a massive decapacitation of the terror networks in Pakistan. That is quite clear in what has happened. And obviously, since the decapacitation has happened, the space for de-escalation has been shrinking. So while this ceasefire may have, come into place, and people would have realized, that this is what India has done insofar as, in the earlier times, you used to have this strategic restraint, and now you've done the required strategic response. I have a feeling that these non-state actors also who are playing up now, who possibly do not care much about what the documentation and what the international rules of arbitration are, and what exactly does the ceasefire means. The last part is this was expected. I mean, there is nothing very great, as you know, General Chopra has also brought out. This is a normal procedure what Pakistan generally adheres to, what they do in most of the conflicts and most of the strife-ridden areas. So there's nothing new, there's nothing very challenging, and I'm sure operational commandos on ground at all tactical, operational and strategic level are very clear about what is to be done and how to prosecute operations.
Right. Even as we speak, we're also bringing visuals of a blackout that has been announced in Barmer in Rajasthan Beltman. There's been a blackout in Baramulla, in Firozpur and Barmer as well because of on your screens now. On the left-hand side of your screens, that's the blackout in Firozpur in Punjab, and on the right-hand side is the blackout in Barmer in Rajasthan. Several areas along the border witnessing blackouts even as explosions have been heard across Srinagar. We're yet to confirm exactly what these explosions were, but Pakistan violating ceasefire in a matter of minutes after it was struck. We have Commodore Shrikant Kesnur also with us. Commodore Shrikant Kesnur, talk to us. One is, we're trying to understand where this is coming from. Are these unilateral actions taken by Pakistan's army chief, or is this a matter of time before the ceasefire settles up? Because the communication is yet to reach all parts of the Pakistani military establishment.
Well, it would be tempting to think of them as unilateral, but in modern day communications, I think we must dispel the notion that it takes years or hours for any such communication to go. I mean, if you and I and the rest of the world has been informed about the ceasefire, I'm sure those on the border and in those positions have been informed about it. Whether they choose to follow that or ignore that is a different question altogether. And as my two illustrious predecessor panelists have said, this is part of a pattern of Pakistani behavior. I mean, you would not, put it beyond them to go back to renegade on any such agreement. And while they can take advantage of the fact that this is a tactical action and that this is being done at the behest of field commanders who are not in the know of things, I think that's a rather flimsy excuse in this day, age, and time. So I'll go with what the other panelists have said, that they probably knew, but they're doing this. Now, whether this is a flex by the military against the political establishment, by Munir against the US, or whether this is an all-out sort of Pakistani, the last sigh before the guns stay silent, I think the jury is out on that. But I think we should not give them, we should not be too charitable in extending this thought that, it was done because they did not know. I think they very well knew about the ceasefire violation, ceasefire coming into agreement, and they have disregarded it.
Right, they knew about the ceasefire. They've just clearly chosen to disregard it. Air Marshal VPS Rana, this cannot go on for too long. If this is just a matter of a flex, it needs to stop sometime soon. Otherwise, already we're getting news that the border security force has been directed to retaliate with full force for all the cross-border shelling.
I think this is absolutely self-destructive action by Pakistan. They had got an opportunity to face their face-saving opportunity, and I think they have let it go. I don't know whether they have now given us the opportunity to finish the unfinished task that we were yet to do. We were just discussing this a little while ago, that probably we should have had at least a day more to finish many unfinished tasks. And I think here is possibly the opportunity that Pakistan is extending to you. Very, very irresponsible. I mean, that's the least I can say. A few minutes back with you, I had said the same thing, that you don't believe that this will go on for very long. And I think within 10 minutes of that statement, this ceasefire violation news came. And this must not go unpunished. This is deliberate act. This cannot be they can't take the shield of it that probably it was not communicated to the field level and they have done it on their own. Even if they have done on their own, we should not give them this benefit of doubt, and we must respond it effectively. And this must be made known to the so-called mediators, whoever has tried to mediate for this, that this is absolutely irresponsible behavior of Pakistan, and it is expected to carry on, and we cannot take this on the face value.
We cannot take this, and in fact, latest that we can see is that Omar Abdullah, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, has also put out another social media post. He's saying that the air defense units in the middle of Srinagar just opened up. This is no ceasefire. That's the latest that we understand. Lieutenant General Rajiv Chopra, were you half expecting this when the ceasefire was announced?
Yeah. See, normally what happens is, like, first I want to bring a correction that the BSF is not retaliating. The BSF only has small arms and little amount of mortars. It is retaliation by the Indian Army. They have the heavy RT guns and the other wherewithal. What I want to say, what the pattern is being seen, if one odd rogue commander, it will be at a lower level. A company commander may open a small arm fire or a mortar fire, but this is pattern, it is coming deep into it. It is well thought out decision by Pakistan, like I brought out. When you culminate any war or strike, you do it with a bang. They thought Indian Army, as usual in the olden times, will look towards Delhi to get the orders. But our operational commanders, who are very battle-hardened and seasoned, would have responded in a very, very heavy manner, giving a befitting reply before we end. And let me assure you, as I know the Indian Army, they will culminate the operation, the ceasefire, implement the ceasefire from the top of the escalating ladder. And what I want to bring out one more thing. No, Pakistan has been talking about two-nation theory. They are bringing fire on the innocent civilians who are of a particular community. Where is the two-nation theory? Where is the Kashmiriyat? What they want to Jamhuriyat? This is very, very wrong on their part, and they need to be punished heavily.
They need to be punished heavily. We are bringing to you the latest visuals on your screens out of blackouts that have taken place. Blackouts in Barmer in Rajasthan. Those are the visuals on your screens of the blackout in Barmer in Rajasthan, thanks to Pakistani drones flying into Indian territory. And not just in Barmer in Rajasthan, in Baramulla, in Firozpur in Punjab, there have been blackouts to deter any incursion coming in from Pakistan. 3 hours after the ceasefire deal was announced, Pakistan violating ceasefire all over again. Heavy shelling reported across the line of control. We also understand that the air defense system in Srinagar has opened up. Multiple explosions have been heard across Srinagar. That's the latest that we understand. Colonel Anurag Avasthi, that's a telling sign, isn't it? It's not just deterrence. We are using, our air defense system all over again.
Yeah, that is correct. You see, let me segue you back to the 16th April speech by Asim Munir, in which he mentioned, and let me, compress the entire sub-cheese of what he said in 3 things. The first thing he said was that Pakistan is built on an ideology. The custodians of this ideology is the Pakistan Army. And Pakistan Army is very, very, alive and very owes a huge amount of allegiance to a particular religion called Islam. So this is the sub-cheese of it. Now, when you look at all of that and then post the 22nd of April and the 13 days intervening period, and India punishing the notorious 9, and this time it was very high visibility targets, and you've actually created a kind of a psychological hurt and, a fear psychosis amongst the non-state actors in Pakistan that, beyond the 2016 surgical strikes and 2019 Balakot strikes, now we have the capability at will at a time and, place of our own choosing to precisely hunt for you and hit you. Now, this is something which has caused psychological hurt, and I have a feeling that the Pakistani army, along with the non-state actors, are somehow not understanding this part of ceasefire, what has been done at 5 o'clock today. Now, there are two things to it. The first thing is, if you look at the line of control, see, it is a pattern. Line of control is a pattern. It's an old playbook. So this is exactly what they do, and they do it during the campaigning season when this period, which is of summers and all of that. And while, it is well known that this is going to happen, my only worry is they are doing it across the international border. So either this is a last-ditch effort that they are trying to, do whatever they want to do, or it is absolute belligerence that they say that we couldn't care less. Whatever is to be done, we will do it. So either which way, both these things are very dangerous. And I think it needs to be looked at in these two paradigms very clearly.
We need to understand the situation a little better, but we are getting some breaking news now. Now, India's air defense system has been activated and Indian Air Force has intercepted Pakistani drones flying across the border all over again, just hours after the ceasefire was announced. The blackouts across border cities, even as the Indian air defense system has been activated. Before we go any further, let's take a look at this ground report that we're getting from Dal Lake in Srinagar. So take a look at the latest social media post by Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, in which he said that very clearly that explosions have been heard across Srinagar, and that India's air defense system has been activated in the middle of Srinagar. So on your screens right now, it's a video that has been posted by Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah of India's air defense system intercepting Pakistani drones. You can see streaks of red across the night sky with the moon in the backdrop. But this is the video that has been posted by Omar Abdullah, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Let's now take a look at this ground report, TV9's ground report from Dal Lake in Srinagar.
एक बार फिर हमले किए जा रहे हैं डल लेक के बाहर। सुनिए सुनिए। एक सात बार एक बार फिर से डल झील के इलाके में मैं मौजूद हूं और पहाड़ियों पर ये ब्लास्ट हो रहा है। माना यह जा रहा है कि ड्रोन से हमले किए जा रहे हैं। उन हमलों को निष्क्रिय कर रही है हमारी सुरक्षा एजेंसी और उसकी ब्लास्ट की खबर है। संभवतः यह मिसाइल भी हो सकता है, ड्रोन से भी हमला हो सकता है, लेकिन सुरक्षा एजेंसियां ये बता रही हैं कि एयरपोर्ट साइड में, लाल चौक साइड में, श्रीनगर के रिहायशी इलाकों में, मार्केट्स को निशाना बनाकर यह हमला किया जा रहा है। और थोड़ी देर पहले लगभग 6 से ज्यादा इस तरह के हमले रिकॉर्ड किए गए हैं और जैसे ही 10 मिनट का वक्त बीता है उसके तुरंत बाद फिर इस तरह के हमले रिकॉर्ड किए गए हैं। और इसको लेकर थोड़ी सी रौनक आज शाम सीजफायर के ऐलान के बाद थोड़ी सी रौनक हमें डल झील के इलाके में नजर आ रही थी, लेकिन जैसे ही इस तरह के एक्सप्लोजन का आवाज लोगों ने सुना है उसके बाद पूरा डल झील का इलाका आप देख सकते हैं कि पूरा खाली पड़ गया है। लोग जो जहां था वो वहीं जान बचाकर भाग रहा है और सुरक्षित जगहों की तलाश में जा रहा है। हम भी इस समय डल झील के इलाके में आज शाम के सीजफायर के ऐलान होने के बाद वॉक करने निकले थे, लेकिन जैसे ही यह आवाज आई है तो हम अलर्ट हो गए हैं और इस वीडियो को रिकॉर्ड करके ये समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं ये कैसा सीजफायर था जिसका ऐलान 3:30 बजे दिन में लगभग बात की गई। 5 बजे से सीजफायर था और लगभग अब रात के 9 बज रहे हैं और 4 घंटा भी ये सीजफायर नहीं टिका और पाकिस्तान एक बार फिर से पलटता हुआ नजर आया और हमेशा की तरह वो अपनी चालाकियों से, अपनी जो उसकी जहनियत है उससे बाज नहीं आया और एक बार फिर से उसने दिखाया कि आतंक ही उसका पूरा मकसद है और इसमें वो पीछे नहीं हटेगा। और इसी तरह की जो कार्यशैली है उसकी, इससे पहले देखिए एक और 3 और लोग भाग रहे हैं, एक और 5। सुनते जाइए, सिर्फ सुनते जाइए, आप सिर्फ सुनते जाइए। डल झील के बाहर मैं खड़ा हूं, लगातार ब्लास्ट हो रहे हैं, लोग भाग रहे हैं और आप समझ सकते हैं कि स्थितियां क्या है। हालात एक बार फिर से खराब हो रहे हैं। सीजफायर का वायलेशन है, अमेरिका के इंटरफेरेंस के बाद डीजीएमओ पाकिस्तान ने यह आश्वासन दिया था कि हम अपनी तरफ से कोई कार्रवाई नहीं करेंगे। भारत ने भी यह कहा था कि हम इसे ये देखिए मुझे साफ तौर पर यहां से ये देखिए साफ तौर पर ये देखिए, इधर से आ रहा गोला, इस तरफ से चलाया जा रहा है और ये देखिए मुझे साफ तौर पर इस रिपोर्ट में नजर आया है। ये देखिए लोग भागते दौड़ते नजर आ रहे हैं और लगातार यहां से उस हर हमले को जो हमारा एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम है वो डीएक्टिवेट कर रहा है।
The ground report by our correspondent Vipin Chaubey from Srinagar, from around the Dal Lake area. Visuals on the screens are of India's air deterrence being put into use to intercept Pakistani drones flying across the border. Pakistan violating ceasefire. It's yet another drone attack by Pakistan alongside heavy shelling that's been reported across the line of control. There's a blackout in border towns from Baramulla to Firozpur in Punjab to Barmer in Rajasthan. We have Air Marshal VPS Rana, Defense and Strategy expert, with us on the broadcast. Air Marshal VPS Rana, again, we're back to using our air deterrence capabilities in Pakistan, using both drones and heavy shelling now after agreeing to a ceasefire.
Well, as far as the air defense are concerned, I'm sure we had never relaxed. I told you in your program earlier as well, air defense is something that is on 24/7, irrespective whether it is war or it is peace. Only difference now this time is that all kind of our weapon system are activated alongside, and I'm sure we had not put our guards down. All our weapon systems are at full alert. Air defense system to keep our airspaces and our skies safe in any case works 24/7, like I said. All our weapon systems are in place. They are in the same state of alert as they were. There was no, and I'm sure it will remain for a pretty long time to come. I told you earlier, there's nothing that we can believe on the Pakistan side. So in any case, as far as the part is concerned, we will remain vigilant, we will remain alert, and we'll thwart everything that is thrown by Pakistan at us.
Commodore Shrikant Kesnoor, this is certainly not good news. Look at what is happening in Srinagar. This is not even in a border areas that we are talking about over here. Srinagar, we had opening up our air defense system smack in the middle of Srinagar, right over Dal Lake. Loud explosions continuing to be heard.
Yes, I mean, it seems like business as usual, you know, hardly, as they say, hardly as the ink dried up on the so-called ceasefire agreement, and Pak is at it again. As the Air Marshal brought out, whether on land or sea, air defense is a 24/7, 365 activity. And I think, you know, one of the salutary aspects of this operation is that it has actually thrown light on air defense people. You know, they are the unglamorous people, but the fantastic work that they have done here has come to light. You can look at this Pak drone attack as possibly a sense of frustration that in the last 72 plus hours, they have not been able to achieve any tangible gains despite having made all-out efforts through their drones and other means. So I think the splendid performance by Indian Air Defense is something I think we ought to remember this operation by. The second point you make out is right. I mean, if it is Srinagar and everywhere else, then it begs the question that is this merely, going back to your earlier question, is this merely a tactical level field commander's decision, or is there something more cooking? I mean, why haven't they stopped? We hope that good sense would come to them, and I'm sure that the Indian forces are retaliating in full measure. But this makes a mockery of the ceasefire agreement.
Mr. Mick, absolutely couldn't agree with you. Lieutenant General Rajiv Chopra, look at what is happening. Look at the visuals over there. Look at what is happening in Srinagar. Look at the blackouts in border towns and the interception that India's air defense has to do smack in the middle of Srinagar. It's a mockery of that ceasefire agreement that was signed with, you know, with great pomp and splendor being announced by US President Donald Trump.
Yeah, see, well, first I want to correct this is not one or tactical commander opening up.
Okay.
No, the artillery is controlled at a quite high level, at least a 1-star level, and drones may be at a still higher level. Therefore, it is not one odd rogue commander who's opened in a fit of anger or rage. This is a two-a pattern, a well-planned thing, because they must be thinking. There are two issues what I want to bring out. That one, they must be thinking, now the guard is down, let's close the game with us on the top, the Pakis on the top. But they didn't know the Indian army is quite used to the deception and surprise tactic. They must have not let the guard down, and they must be retaliating. And secondly, what I want to bring out, in the garb of this arty firing, stopping and starting, they may be trying to infiltrate, push through some terrorists inside the camp who can create havoc in some few days, because the counter-infiltration grid and the counter-terrorism grid is also very, very strong these days. Now, after the post-Pelgaon thing, they may be using this opportunity, last-ditch effort, to push in some more terrorists who can create havoc in times to come.
Can create great havoc. Lieutenant Raju, I have to ask you, you're saying it's not one rogue commander. Is it a rogue army chief per se?
It has planned at that level. Let me tell you, if the DGMO had given a ring, they would have relented. It would have been discussed. No person in the Pak army has got the courage or the guts, as I may say, to give any indication of a truce with India without a jihadi general. And it may be one of his deception plan up the sleeve that he'll call a ceasefire, and then when the guard is down, they will again retaliate, so that once again they'll cry hoax, and they'll close the chapter from top, and they'll tell the Awam that look what kind of injuries we have done. Like we have got reports, we have retaliated within minutes, within seconds. And like the Air Marshal has brought out, that whether it be peace or war, 24/7, our air defense systems are always banned. The minimum inescapable requirement of officership, the men are always on guard. Like I said, I always used to write 24/7, 365 days, forever in ops. We are forever in ops. The Indian Armed Forces are forever in ops, because this is a no war, no peace scenario, especially in the JNK scenario. And let us assure the nation that the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force, valor is there, and we are giving a befitting reply. In fact, the young officers, the tactical commanders may be very happy, because the ceasefire has come all of a sudden. They must be planning something for the evening. Now they have got an opportunity, and they know they must complete their job, unfinished agenda in quick time. They must be traveling very, very heavy.
But Colonel Anurag Awasthi, we understand that there's been shelling going on in Samba and Kathua as well. There's been shelling. Pakistani drones have crossed into Indian airspace. Indian air defenses have successfully intercepted all of them, like we have been doing for the last 72 hours or so. At this stage, what are your thoughts? Do you think this is clear plan? This was the plan right from the beginning while agreeing to the ceasefire, or do you think this is reactionary after the ceasefire was announced?
See, let me just take you back a little in history. I mean, you look at the 71 war, although it's a little dated, you look at the 71 war, post it ended, the ceasefire violations kept going on till the Simla agreement. Then there was a little, time of a little lack of ceasefire agreements over the line of control. It peaked in the 80s. In the late 80s, the ceasefire violations over the line of control peaked in the 80s. Between the early 90s, it became even more profound and even more pronounced, as we can, see from the course of history. In 2003, there was a, unilateral ceasefire agreement in which the Indian and Pakistani forces on the line of control said that, look, we will look at this ceasefire agreement for 5 years. It didn't hold fire. 2008, the entire story started again post the Mumbai attacks. If you recall, one of the most horrific attacks of the recent times, 26/11 in 2008.
Right.
Thereafter, the number of, I can give you statistics. The number of ceasefire violations between 2010 and 2020 have been more than 12,000. 12,000 ceasefire violations, which had led to the fatal casualties of nearly 300, including civilians and the defense personnel. So there is nothing new, as my fellow panelists have said. This is pattern.
Fair enough.
This is pattern. Absolutely pattern.
But
my only fear is that while this is a usual playbook on the line of control, which also looks at pushing in a couple of terrorists inside, breaking the counter-infiltration grip, which is rock solid, it is happening on the international border. That worries me.
Right.
That is part one. The second part is the AD systems being activated is normal standard operating procedure. There's nothing very new to it. While you get something which is hostile, you will be always open 24/7, 365.
Right.
Ajay
Exactly.
Chopra has got it very clearly.
Right.
The third part is, and the most important part is, like a lot of people are saying in a lot of channels for a very long time now, over the last 48 hours, that, there are swarm drones and there are, a large population of drones coming and coming and coming. You can't have, these, drones like, SS Guard Songers, which are, those gun-toting drones which they've taken from Turkey, or the Bakhtiar, or the others, they could just be those Mavic normal drones, those commercial drones, which most of them use it for even smuggling across the international border. You just arm them in some manner or the other to create fear psychosis. It is high visibility, low impact. So I don't think there is something very alarming to this. However, this pattern is very, very unbecoming of Pakistan after a ceasefire has been signed.
Absolutely. Colonel Anurag, stay with us. We have my colleague Aditya Raj Kaur, our executive editor for Strategic Affairs National Secretary, now joining us. Aditya, talk to us. What is the latest that you're bringing us in terms of breaking news?
Well, yes, even though a ceasefire violation was announced, ceasefire was announced between India and Pakistan, but hours into it, there's been massive ceasefire violation at the international border at multiple sectors. The government of India has now given a free hand to the border security force to retaliate and counter this incoming massive artillery fire and gunfire coming in from the Pakistani side. A lot of civilian villages have been impacted also along the international border and the line of control. We also know of casualties that the BSF as well as the civilians have suffered in that area right now. But intense exchange of fire is underway. Apart from that, in Srinagar, we've had a massive Pakistani drone attack, nothing less than Pakistani terrorism out in Srinagar. There's panic on the streets. Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has tweeted that there's no ceasefire, but in fact people are out on the streets. They should take care, they should take precautions. There are multiple blasts that have been reported, but also incoming drones that have been fired at by the security forces to safeguard and give security to the common civilians in the Kashmir Valley. So it's a very volatile situation. Expected that immediately announcing the ceasefire, there would be a fresh attack by Pakistan. Pakistan has not just violated a ceasefire, but it has broken trust of India, and a massive escalation by Pakistan to attack the BB camp, which is the Badami Bagh cantonment of the Indian Army, and several other important areas, including Lal Chowk, the city center of Srinagar in Kashmir.
Aditya Raj Kaur joining us with the latest on the ceasefire violation by Pakistan. Visuals on your screens are of the air defense system by India intercepting Pakistani drones. A Pakistani drone attack 3 hours after a ceasefire violation was announced. We're bringing you the latest visuals. Bear in mind that we're also getting you visuals of a complete blackout in border towns, including Baramulla and Firozpur in Punjab and Barmer in Rajasthan, shelling in Kathua and Akhnur and other parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Multiple explosions have been heard in Srinagar. Those are the latest details. But there has been a massive ceasefire violation where the question is, has the Pakistani army not accepted this ceasefire, which is brokered by the US and which involved the civilian government of Pakistan and included and the government of India as well. But the ceasefire not holding as we speak, as we're getting you these latest details. If you can hear let's listen to the sounds of the explosions that we're getting from this visual.
Fire. Mas fez na bunda. Fez na bunda.
Fire. Mas fez Ramon.
These are the latest visuals from Udhampur on your screens right now, where again you can see violation by Pakistan in air, that violation being intercepted by India. That's what these visuals are showing you. These visuals are from Udhampur. We're getting you all the latest visuals from across the border areas. Lieutenant General Rajiv Chopra, I have to ask you at this stage, India needs to be ready for anything at this point, isn't it? It won't be just drones and shelling. We never know what's going to happen from here on. Pakistan could yet again try to escalate the matter.
I'll say India is ready. In fact, it may be a blessing in disguise. A lot of people were expressing the opinion that we need to stretch this warfare, or whatever you may say, the strikes a little longer. It gives us the opportunity further to degrade the war fighting potential, and also if the army continues to ban their eastern borders and our western borders, they have pulled out a lot of divisions, a couple of divisions from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, and the time may be ripe. There the insurgency will get more aggressive, and there are a lot of turmoil there which will suit our requirement, and the Pakistani army will not know where to look, inside or outside. So it may be a blessing in disguise. It must continue for 2-3 days because it has no endurance, 2-3 days tempo he has. The war fighting materials, the war fighting endurance is not there. After another day or so,